Good morning.
Unmuted helps. Good morning too.
Yeah, I think we just need to wait for Ricardo to join in.
Yeah, awesome. Where are you based in this remote world?
I'm in India, so it's kind of like 8:30 p.m. That's a little late.
Oh, ouch.
Yeah.
I'm just back from 4 weeks Europe, and it's like I was already complaining about keeping up with the Pacific time zone.
Yeah, I'm flying to the US tomorrow for KubeCon, so I'm really not looking forward to the jet lag. It's almost like a 12 hours difference.
Right,
So
yeah.
Are you going to be at KubeCon as well?
No, there are people from my company will be there. It's like my co-founder will be there, and then it's like I think three others. I'm doing virtual KubeCon duty this time. So
Okay.
Hi, Ricardo.
Hey, Gert. Thanks for joining.
Of course, pleasure.
Just give it a couple more minutes, see if more people join. Now we can get started after that.
All right. We were just talking about KubeCon.
Yeah, I'm not gonna make it this time either, so I might actually join Amsterdam.
I did the Spain one in May. That was nice.
Are you
Well,
located in Europe?
No. I went to the I had a analyst conference the week before in Germany, so it worked out that it's like I could go to Germany, and then it's like spent the weekend in the Netherlands where I'm originally from, so that was nice. And then it's like I went on to Spain, so that was that worked out pretty well. Although it's like being on the road for that long is like I'm not used to it anymore. I used to hop in and out in planes every time, and it's like this now I hate it. Where are you based?
I'm in California, in the Bay Area.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah, I know it.
How are wildfires in Europe? It's like we're still suffering here in Seattle. It's like it's amazing. It's like months right now going on, and still smog every day.
I also heard that it's pretty hot in Seattle right now. Like, is it?
Sorry, it's what in Seattle?
It's pretty hot in Seattle right now.
Relatively speaking, for October, yes, it's still pretty warm. It's like it was like 74, I think, still. So that's for October, Seattle. Good thing. Not raining, even better. Although it's like now everybody wants the rain because it's like the wildfires keep blazing. So it's like in the mountains. So it's not.
Yeah, we haven't had a lot of wildfires this year. I think we had quite a bit last year.
Man, it's like be happy about it. It's like when I worked for Hulu, it's like the 2 years I was there, it's like every time I was there in it's like August till November, it's like there was like wildfires going on, and it's like the pain that causes is like immense.
Yeah, that
Not fun.
awesome.
Right.
I think we can get started. I think it's 5 minutes past, so
Okay.
excited to have you here. Like to hear about your project. I know you're using OCI to store open policy agent policies. So yeah.
So I can walk through. It's like I have a bunch of slides. I can do a quick demo. We can just talk about it free form. I think let's go to the slides real quick. I think that probably gives us some structure, and then you guys have questions, and then we can dive into things and discuss whatever is interesting for you guys. And happy to also hear a lot of feedback. So, all right. So let me see if Zoom wants to collaborate and share my. Okay. Okay, I'll just share my desktop. It's probably the easiest thing right now. Let me do this. Can you see this? You should see. You see, Lottie. It's so we created this project. It's OPCR for short, Open Policy Registry, full out. Was the idea to create a more attainable workflow for creating and deploying policies and creating a secure basic life cycle of the distributing those policy images. Because right now it's like, so we started building on top of OPA, which is a great engine. It's like, but the way for distributing those policies is a little interesting. It's like, it's a tarball, not the format is not the issue, but it's like, we had issues. How do you determine which version am I running? Is my policy immutable? Did somebody change it? There are different kinds of payloads which change at different paces. And so we have policy rego files, which are pretty much immutable. And then there is reference data that the engine uses. So we had this desire to start moving to a world where it's like these things could switch or evolve independently, but in a very controlled fashion. And so we like the Docker model in terms of it's like workflow. So what we wanted to see is like, how can we create a workflow for developers to actually make this easier, building on top of the big shoulders that are inside the CNCF. And so this is much about how can we actually leverage capabilities that are existing and integrate them and create a better together story. So we wanted to build this on top of the Docker workflow. You're building your policies, you can push them, you can pull them, you can run them. So separating the concerns of building, pushing, having a central registry, having a place where you can sign them, having a envelope OCI as the format that we can actually allow to be used to store, which makes it also discoverable and play nicely with other artifacts inside the industry. We wanted to make this as a single static CLI to begin with, just to enable developers easy access. And it's like make it a full open source project. So that's what we did. So right now, if you would go to, let me see if this would work, right, to opcr.io, it's like it will get you to the website. If you would sign in, you would go to the part that actually is the policy registry. So everybody can create here a registry, just like Docker Hub or GHCR, and push their policies. So it's effectively an OCI registry dedicated to policies, which doesn't mean that this is the only thing you can use. We can use GHCR, you can use GCR, we can use the AWS one. We still need to be doing work to actually get it to work with Artifactory. And so it's like we're struggling a bit with this, like the compatibility of OCI registries, to be honest, and the search capabilities and making sure that there is a user experience that actually works well. But it's like, so that's some of the struggles that we have as a little project. So user installs CLI.
So is there like a difference between all this? I mean, there's an OCI standard, right? But do all these proprietary vendors have something specific in their registries that makes it hard to be compatible with each other, like the Google registry or the AWS registry?
Not from the, well, there is the question, is like, does the registry support OCI v2? So that's, they advertise that they do or they don't. Everybody right now that is a major player does.
Got it.
So we don't have any issues with that. I think the OCI registry specification is very limited in its capability in terms of you can push, you can pull, But when it comes to search and list, which are things that developers and tools need to be able to do, that's where there is the friction. And everybody has their own things. For example, when we were debugging this on GCR, we were like, hey, we want to return the policies in latest submitted first. So latest is so time descending. And it's like the API was like, we can't get it.
Got it.
And so we had to go and basically fish in their console to see it's like what their parameters are. Then we looked, it's like, hey, are you using those parameters? It's like, are they documented? No way. And so this is where I think practicality and reality are not meeting with the standard yet. And it's like, I've had a discussion with some of the OCI folks, it's like last November when we had a meet in Seattle. Anyhow, so that's where some of the challenges are to leverage these registries, right? It's like, because the reference implementation for an OCI registry is effectively the Docker registry open source version, which is very limited in that regards.
Got it. That makes sense. Yeah. It was
So,
noticed that it was kind of hard to search for container images. You could only search by tag, and sometimes if you want to search for older stuff, it wasn't easier, basically, or it isn't.
And it's like the storage structure of those registries do not make it very efficient, right? It's painfully performance intensive in certain cases, because it's a bunch of streams that are all going into S3 like buckets at the end of the day, right? It's like that's where all this information seems to end up. Okay, so make it accessible for a user. You can install it to Brew. It's a Go binary, so it's like if people are having Go installed, they can get it from there. The main thing from that is like they have to log in. If they use OPCR as their registry, they use a GitHub token, same as in the GHCR. For all the others, it's like they just pass in whatever they need to pass in to actually connect to this. So what can they do at that point in time? So they can start building policies using a policy as code workflow. So literally, it's like they can go, if I would go in here, and hopefully this font is big enough for you. I can start as a developer. I can say it's like we have templates. Let's list those templates that they can start from. And this is an extensible mechanism. So this is coming from the registry in terms of like, hey, what are the samples that you have? And you see there are two categories, two kinds of policies right now that is like our templates that we have. One is a policy template. So this gets you started with Rego. This basically creates a boilerplate source code project for a developer. And then it's like there are CI templates that you apply on top of this to integrate it with GitHub and GitLab in this particular example. So if we would do this, it's like if we would say, it's like, hey, templates, let me apply. It's like I'll just take the to-do app, which is this a simple app, into this directory. It will go and get this in here. Okay. And what it will do is it will create a basic scaffolding for the developer to get started. All right, just how does the developer to get started? So it's a bit opinionated in terms of it's like, hey, it creates a directory structure and some file naming, but it's like at the end, it's like the user can go and change this. Now it's like the user will say, it's like, I want to integrate this with GitHub. So that's why I created my my demo repo right now is like, which is still empty. So, all right, let's get this going. Where do I want to go? It's like, this is the list of standard supported ones. So it's like, we'll use OPCR #3. Okay, user, that's me. The token, that's the token name, not the secret itself. So this is the secret token that is like, in this case, GitHub Actions use. So this is let me check real quick what I called it, because otherwise it's like I will have an issue. So what that will do is like it will install the GitHub action workflow for a user to get going. Let's see. Secrets, actions, push key.
Curiosity, does OPCR also support, like, how does the access management work? Like, does it support IAM policies or something like what GCR does?
It's a command line tool that is like you authenticate to whatever target you need, and it's like we're bound to whatever rules they are imposing. So it's like we're not special in any means. We also is like, so the same policy CLI, which we'll see. So I'll finish this like, okay, so my repo is Gert, is like demo. Okay, so what does this do? So we go up here. Let me put it this way, make this bigger for you guys. So this created the source code, which is like some policies, some Rego files that is like our sample, a manifest file, which is also all OPA stuff. And then it's like on the GitHub side, it creates a configuration file that says, it's like, where are you going? There are no secrets in there, right? The secrets are in GitHub in this particular case. And then it has a workflow that will help me build, tag, push to my policies when I'm tagging, in this particular case, to, in this particular example, is like we said, it's like we're pushing to OPCR. All right, so if the user wants to change this and go to GHCR or to their own internal registry, it's like this is just a config change away that it's like they can go do this. So that's the template. So if I would go to demo, it should be empty right now, or it's like I only have the init stuff in there, so there's nothing in there today. So let me go just add all this, git commits. Yeah, this push it. Okay, get back. Okay. So what should happen now if the demo gods are with us today, it's like a CI should kick off, which is going to effectively, it's like use the same policy CLI, but then it's like used as a container image, right? That's how we integrate it into GitHub right now. If they have runners available today, it seems to be a challenge. Come on. Oh, it's like. All right, we have an authorization issue. Let me see if it's. I might be stepping on myself because like if demo is in here, I already have a demo v1 in here, so it's like I probably should have cleaned that up. It's like, which I didn't. Anyhow, so point is like the user is like will go. Yeah, it's like my. Let me try to clean that up real quick. Delete this, okay, and do it again. Yep, I know. Rerun all. Last try. So the point is what we're trying to set up for the developer is this like workflow that is like will help them. It's like with the regular work of there's a policy, you push it, it goes to the registry, and when you consume it, you always consume it from the registry. So literally, it's like there's an exact parallel with the Docker workflow with that regard.
Yeah, but one question. So does this work with the GitHub security too? So, or that's completely different. I mean, there's a capability in GitHub that contains security scans, and I wonder if it can be integrated with that.
It should be, yeah, because it's a regular OCI image. There's nothing special with regards to is like what we're doing.
Awesome.
So as I said, it's like the policies that we create are Rego based. It's like the policy images are OCI v2 based. Right now, it's like the OCI image, in order to align with what OPA, so the Open Policy Agent, has today, which is like OPA today is a tarball. So we're literally is like using the tarball image type to be backwards compatible. So we're right now is like we're at a state where we're enveloping. And so that's to actually get the workflow mechanism in there. The next step is like, I've had a couple of conversations with some of the OCI team members and previous people who worked on this, like Garrett Rushmore from Sneak, who has made a whole proposal like 2 years ago about how can we make layered OCI images for OPA to actually get that off the ground and start running this. But that's right now is like where we are. So at that point, the user can build their policy. If they would build locally, and if you would say policy images, right, you would see that it's like you have a local OCI registry as well, right? It's like a store. So this is like what we're relying on is a full implement. This comes out of the, I forgot the name of the project, who is doing the, I'm spacing right now. The implementation of OCI wrapper in Golang. It's like, so that gives us, and it's like we implemented part of the local OCI store. So this gives us the ability to have a local OCI store. You can build locally, you tag, and then you push remotely. So that's what this tries to depict. Is like I'm building an image locally, then I'm tagging it, and then it's like I'm pushing it up so to the service.
It's just like a Docker CLI, basically. Like
exactly right, but then targeted for OPA images right now. Oops, sorry. All right, so distributing is like you're pushing it, just like you're pushing it to a Docker registry. You do need to have, for example, if you push to GHCR, you do need to do a Docker login, because it's like that's what the infrastructure expects with regards to security tokens. So you do take your token, pass it into Docker, and then it's like that establishes your credentials, and then we can use that to actually have secure access. So then
I've seen the example with Helm too. Helm, you can actually store the Helm charts in a OCI, but Helm actually has a command called Helm registry login or something like that. I guess it uses the same command as Docker login. I mean, I think you can use either one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, where it's like we do have a policy login, where it's like we're logging into the registry. In certain cases, it's like especially when we use cosign, it's like we need more, and it's like that cosign specifically for the longest time only worked with if we had a Docker login. So it wasn't as transparent yet. I think they're fixing that right now.
Yeah.
So we push it, you consume it from the other side. It's like, which is a pool, doesn't. So that allows you then to go and do things like start for example, it's like we can do policy REPL, right? And that will, if this image is there, which is not right now because like my builds keep failing. I don't know what I did here. All right, so let me go registry, see if, let me go, I'll take this one, Aona, let me copy this, so. Yeah. Of course doesn't. Ah, come on, dude. Wake up. OPCR. Here. I completely host something, I think, on my environment right now. Sorry about that.
No worries.
Well, I shoot for it. So it allows you to start it up, run it. Then it's like, so we integrated this also as cosign. So that way it's like somebody, because we want to be able to prove that a policy image is immutable. So that's why it's like we like the cosign approach. So that way it's like we can sign our image using the cosign infrastructure and then verify that it's like it was, when we pull it in, it's like it was not changed. So that's, we integrated that into this. And then last but not least, it's like if you want to run this with OPA, right, it's like, so we did work with the OPA team, that OPA, besides using the tarball, it now understands the OCI images natively. So we integrated that. And so in order for a user to do that right now, it's like if he would use this, it's like he would create a config file where it's like he needs to pass in, where do I get it from? OPCR, DHCR, GCR, wherever. Pass the token information, and then it's like, where is my information coming from? So OPCR demo. Then it's like in order to use that, the user calls OPA run with the config file, exposes the server, and now you're actually playing with, it's completely integrated and shows up there. And yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, going to be integrated with the Kubernetes admission policies. I mean, I think some cases are using OPA or like Gatekeeper.
Yeah, so Gatekeeper is using OPA. Was a conf test is another one that is like is heavily used in the Kubernetes environments. That is like is what's originally, I think, created by Garrett Rushmore. So conf test started pioneering OCI images very early on, and so it's like we're working with them to actually see if we can align and get them to adopt this. And it's like we're talking to the Gatekeeper guys to actually, if we think there is a path where it's like these standard admission controller policies could be distributed as policies through the registry and then shared within the community. So that's, I think, is a path that is like we're trying to explore with them. I know that there are conversations at KubeCon again with them to actually see if that works. So
yeah, I think that will be really useful for end users, like
yeah,
in a way that you just kind of have this preset policies and then have sort of like a spec, like a, I don't know, like like a pod spec and in a way like pulls these certain policies, and
exactly, yeah,
and apply that.
Yeah. So there is a that's one of the things that is like that we're trying to do is that, so we do this ourselves is like because it's like we're leveraging this and using this ourselves on a daily basis, but we're focused on the API access control arena. It's like that's where we play as a little company. It's like we're purely focused on service authorization. So we use it as an API access. It's like all our users that are using the system is like distributing their policies as OCI images as a result.
Mm-hmm. Awesome.
So this is basically is like the end. It's like we're building on top of OCI. So the whole philosophy is like don't reinvent where something exists that we can leverage. So we're building on top of OCI. We're building on top of the registry spec and the OCI image spec. So both of these two, or the distribution spec, I think is officially what it's called. We work on top of the SIG store side of the house and OPA, and we're trying to bring these aspects together and enable a workflow for developers to make it easier accessible. So that's the basic spiel, actually.
I had a kind of a slightly orthogonal question. So I was looking at the source code, and it seems to import a runtime library. I'm just curious what that's about. It looks pretty cool. Is it like for building OPA bundles or something?
So there is an abstraction that is like another piece that is like we open source, which is the runtime, which is how to leverage OPA more efficiently and effectively as a library. So OPA is like itself is a service. And the OPA team created a project long time ago, which they now abandoned, which was SDK, the OPA SDK, which was sort of catering towards the using OPA as a library. Because the policy CLI compiles, so it needs to have access to the compiler, the ASTs, syntax, everything from that. So that's where it's like we need to leverage OPA. So the way that the policy CLI brings in that whole big thing called OPA, but only the pieces that are needed, is through this runtime abstraction. So the runtime abstraction is an open source project that basically brings these two worlds together and makes it easier for somebody to use OPA as a built-in functionality inside your source. Right,
Yeah.
so it's like Gatekeeper is using OPA as a library. Is like we use OPA as a library. It's like there are many others that use it actually as a library and integrate it that way, right? And that's what that project tries to achieve. So it's that. For us, it's like, so I worked on Cloud Foundry for years. And the company that is like I originally joined, it's like had this big dilemma. It's like they made Cloud Foundry great, but it's like they forked so much that they couldn't keep up with the community. And that was sort of it's like when we started this, it's like, that ain't gonna happen to me. It's like, I wanna be able to have, and so what this is, it's like, the runtime is allowing me to stay up to date. It's like I'm one click behind, I think, right now, OPA. We're on 44, they're on 45. So normally it's like we're in a week, 2 week time frame where it's like we have everything aligned and tested, and then it's like we can move to the latest version. But it's literally an adapter.
Is there a reason why like the OPA team decided not to continue to maintain the library, or they just kind of focus more on the service? Or?
I think it's like time, resources. It's like it's not that they've. It's like we gave it. It's like we said to them. It's like, hey, we built this. It's like the same was the policy CLI. We asked them actually, so there is a request out to the CNCF for making it an official sandbox project underneath OPA.
I got it.
So for the policy CLI, and that would also bring in the runtime, and then it's like we can start consolidating. It's like So we're active contributors to the engine as well. It's like, so we built the OCI integration into the engine. Right now it's like we're trying to rework the logging structure. So it's like there's very expensive the way that they log, and there's a lot to log, of course, inside the decision engine. So we're trying to come up with a cheaper implementation, execution cheaper. So we're trying to be involved in that side of the house as much as we can. It's sometimes a challenge. It's like, but
Yeah,
it's like the engine is pretty much still is like a Styra only domain. It's fine. It's like it works right now. So
yeah, makes sense. Yeah, this is great. I mean, I think with the library, I mean, maybe there could be. I mean, you're investing time in that project, so I mean the community might benefit from using that. I mean, it sounds like the OPA team is not maintaining their own library, and then you forked it. And
it's like it's not so much a fork. It's like so. When we started building our authorizer implementation for applications, we needed a way to actually factor OPA and keep up with it. Then it's like we started building the policy CLI, which needed certain nuggets of it, and we said, it's like, all right, this is either it's going to be a copy, which is not maintainable at the end of the day. We want to be able to, if OPA has a CVE, it's like we need to be able to respond and keep up. And there recently has been quite a few of those, which is good because that means it's getting used. So it's like I'm not, but it's like that was the whole intent of it. At that time, they were building the what they called the SDK in OPA. And that's just didn't get any traction. That's like they abandoned that project, and they said, it's like, well, OPA is OPA. It's like we deliver the service, and we basically built this adapter model that is like picks the right packages, creates factory code, config code, etc. in there to make it easier to consume. And so
open to maybe folding this, I don't know what the right word is, merging the step under OPA and bringing it to Sandbox?
Oh yeah, please. I would love to. It is like, because I think A, it's like it helps the community, and B, it's like it would be great for my team, because it's like, hey, they spend a lot of time and love is like building, maintaining it. It's a core part of what we do for the policy CLI, for our own implementations. And I know that it's like a GoDaddy. It's like they're relying on it because it's like they are using this in their authorizer as a function capabilities. So it's that's why we open sourced it. It's like well, here it is. It's like we didn't get a lot of traction with regards to is like getting it into the project as is, and it's like where it's like it's in the OPA source tree right now. That's where we can get it. Please, it's like we'll move it.
I think it's interesting and sort of funny how open source projects sometimes work. Like sometimes they get traction and sometimes they don't. Like it's just sometimes it's just viral effect.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's and it is like right now it is like, so as I said, it's like we've built it because we use it every day. It's like every day it's like there will be check-ins in runtime from our point, where it's like we're constantly making it better and adopting, as I said, because it's that connector, right? Every time OPA moves, we have to adjust and keep up. And that's everybody who uses OPA as a library has that challenge.
Got it.
So yeah, so that's where we are. That's what it is. It's like on the policy CLI side, it's like it's everything is also is like we purposefully is like moved it to OPCR OPCR.io. It's like there is its own GitHub presence that is like we try to stay out of, like making sure it's like it's not there's no cross contamination. Try to be a good citizen there. But yeah.
So with the OPCR.io, do you have a lot of users now, or is it growing, or
it's
getting more
so
adoption?
So the adoption of the policy CLI is growing. It's like a lot of people use their GitHub registry or their existing registry. So at the beginning, it's like it was only like supporting OPCR as the registry. Then it's like we had the time to start investing in making the other ones available, and that's way more is like used right now. And so the main thing right now is like, so this is actually one part of real friction, I think, in the OCI registry space. If I'm pushing to GHCR or any just container registry, there is no way to say, I want to select only policies, or I only want to select Docker images. That is the real, this is why we have OPCR, because OPCR only accepts policy images. And it has public and private ones. So if you want to share things, it's like that's how we share open templates, for example. Templates for us are policy images that we share.
Got it.
And so that is one piece of friction, which is like, if the OCI community would be able to fix that, is like, because right now it's like pushing all these different types in there, which OCI v2 is trying to promote, of course, is like, if you can select or give me a list of all the, I only want this kind or type, that becomes really problematic. And so I think the part where is like we're constantly running into is where the registry service API, right, is facilitating sort of a common ground between the registry implementations.
Got it.
Because every vendor, you asked that earlier, it's like every vendor today has their own special APIs that go above and beyond. Some of them implement them as extension functions. So it's like, at least it folds nicely into the specification. And some of them are like, nah, it's like, hey, this is just one-off. It's like, and so yeah.
Yeah, the problem is I don't know, the proliferation of different ways of they extend it, right? And then it becomes really hard for the end user to figure out what they really want. And obviously you want that stuff to kind of happen in the base open source project, or the OCI project, right? So
yeah, so I think that's where the service side of the specification has not caught up. And it's like, based on the conversations I was in during the OCI meetings last November, there is a fair amount of course, competitive political pressure is like that is like are influencing these decisions, which is, I get it. It's like they don't want the common ground to be too big. It's like, in order for it to be useful, it's like, I think I would ask the question is like, to which degree does it hurt OCI v2 adoption or continuous growth if you cannot do these simple kind of things? It's like, hey, I need to be able to distinguish, talk to a registry and distinguish A's from B's from C's.
And then also add extra capabilities, like you mentioned, like searching, right? Like that's, or searching by tags or searching by a date, right? Like when it was last pushed, that type of thing, right? So
yeah, because it is like we spent a lot of time in our team is like making is like the simple unfolding of semvers, right? And it's like, how do you sort that correctly? If somebody wants to look at the changes, it's like what are all the same ones? It's like if you think of it, so OPA has this discovery mechanism. All right, so it's like where you say, it's like I'm looking at, it's like they talk to a discovery service, and that's like, all right, that gives me the latest payload. So if I'm using a semver, right, then it's like I have an open semver. It's like I subscribe to v1.1, for example, and there is a new push. It's like, how do you resolve that? Right, it's like, so that's where it's like we spend a lot of time doing those kind of things, making sure that it's like those kind of discovery mechanisms, and then it's like this, everybody gets the same answers. It's that's where there is the practicality is like but yeah,
because anybody can tag like 1.1 and you can push later, and then you can tag 1.1, but it's actually you're getting something else, right? You get a different
exactly
article. Yeah.
And so that's I think the combination of trying to create a secure software supply chain for policies, right, is like guaranteeing immutability, but also it's like, as I said, it's like there are different artifacts in an OPA bundle, right? There are Rego files, there are data files, there are WASM files, there are manifest files that you want to be able to update independently. And if you would have that layered, right, you would be able to go do this and only have to re-sign the layer. And that way it's like you can delegate authority, saying it's like, oh, if reference data updates, which is very common, that's a frequent event for most users, is like that is much more attainable if that would be a separate layer in the package, and you can guarantee that is like your policy files and your manifest and your WASM files didn't change.
Yeah.
And so that's where we're trying to get to. And so that's the work that I see ahead of us in terms of is like trying to bring this discussion and reopen up the work that Garrett Rushmore did 2 years ago and basically got stalled. It's like that didn't go anywhere. But it was like awesome ideas. Right? And trying to materialize on that. And the approach that I'm taking is like, all right, let's create a reference implementation and then show and tell. Right? It's like, instead of, it's like we can write specifications till the cows come home. We already have the specifications. We have OCIs. It's like, you don't need another specification from us to make this work, right? It's like right now is like we just have to demonstrate the value, in my opinion, leveraging those specifications. That's what the approach that I'm taking.
Awesome.
So. Cool. Any other questions I can answer for you guys?
Not a question, but I'm wondering, so like circling back on the runtime repo and the OPA SDK thing, I don't know if tag runtime is the right place. Like, Ricardo, do you know if tag runtime can help, I don't know, like move that forward, or like if it's already proposed to sandbox, like how does it work? Like, I'm pretty new to this too.
So yeah, we proposed it. It's like when we created it, it's like, we proposed it to the OPA community. We reproposed it as part of the when we asked for is like policy CLI to be a sandbox project. So that's an official submission that is like we made to the CNCF. We did that last year. It's like it got lost apparently. So it's like we just resubmitted it again. So Chris Anacek was just like, now I know that it's like we received, it's like it was received. So hopefully it's like that will work. But as part of that, it's like I can most likely what I can see happening is like that if we can get the policy CLI work as the sandbox project, the runtime can travel with that, because it's like in that way, it's like we'll just ask, it's like the OPA guys, it's like, where do you want it? It's like, you want it in the OPCR world, you want it in the OPA world. We don't care. All right, it's like the advantage will be for everyone, including ourselves, is that it would result in that it's like there is this lockstep, most likely, that we can create with OPA releases. So OPA releases, the runtime is updated, and that's a win for everybody, I think.
Yeah, I think to Nikita's questions, TAG-Runtime can help in terms of like helping create a working group, under the CNCF, and if there's some folks around a project or some sort of specification, you can create like an entity within TAG-Runtime to tackle that problem, right? And just the CNCF helps with the logistics and so maybe promotion, right, during like KubeCon and those type of things or events, just to try to get more traction within the community. So I think that's how the CNCF can help, and it's always an option if you're open. I know that the OPA is under security, maybe tax security, so that's also an option there. So there could be under working group under tax security or security tag. So so it's, if you're interested or anybody in your team or would like to kind of create that entity, we're happy to help.
Okay, that's good to know. Yeah. So it's like we're, as I said, it's like there's the policy side. It's like we're at KubeCon. It's like we're also open sourcing another sort of an integration with OPA, where it's like which brings data into OPA. Right? It's like, I wouldn't call it a Zanzibar project, but it's like policy. It's like authorization requires data. And so we've always made that a first class citizen in our world. And so this is our attempt to is like have an open source version of that brings these two worlds together and integrates with all the work that you already saw. So it's like, it's effectively OPA plus a built-in directory plus the policies, like brings in this whole sort of units that it's like is a standalone authorizer that developers can start to use to actually utilize this and start building an authorization solution for their applications.
Yeah. And then you can sort of come up with like a common name for that type of thing. And sometimes the community kind of gathers around that common goal. Right. So putting all those pieces together. But that's how the CNCF can help.
Yeah.
But it's also up to the, the community, how they want to do it.
Exactly. Yeah. So. Awesome.
Well,
sure.
Thank you. And I'm excited to see the project mature, and we'll keep in touch.
All right, perfect. All right, thank you very much.
Thanks.
Look at KubeCon. All right, bye.